A tear rolls down our protagonist's face as he hears his name being called. Slowly his eyes open and he seems to be waking from a deep sleep. Suddenly, a slap to the head wakes up the boy who is dozing off while sitting on the floor. The man asks if he knows why he's there and why he dares to sleep at a time like this. Zheng Qiang apologizes and explains that he spent the whole night enhancing cards. He says he was awake for 3 days drinking coffee and ended up passing out because of it. But without accepting excuses, his colleague summons a giant strength hand spell card. This is an intermediate card that summons a dark element hand for 3 minutes. With that, the energy hand quickly moves forward and grabs our hero's neck. The aggressor says the kid dares to talk back and that he's going to teach him a lesson. However, a powerful voice yells for it to be enough and to stop wasting energy points. This is the group's captain, who explains that Zheng Qiang fell asleep because he was helping him at the shop. The man with the scar on his face seems displeased but agrees to stop the fight. With that, he dispels the ability, and the protagonist ends up falling hard onto the floor. Right after, the guy complains to the captain about taking the blonde kid on missions. 2 other members agree, saying he's dead weight with a useless talent. The protagonist feels sad hearing this because he knows his talent is the weakest of all. Once again, the captain shouts for them to stop talking nonsense, showing his authority. He reminds them of the mission to hunt a crystal dragon and tells everyone to get ready. The colleagues then surround the boy and tell him to carry the luggage since he's useless. Then, one of them asks if the group thinks they'll be able to seal the magic crystal dragon. With great excitement, they all say yes and that they'll forge a high-level card to get rich. But behind them all, Zheng Qiang carries the bags alone with a forced laugh. At that moment, the captain approaches and asks if the boy is nervous about entering the secret realm. The protagonist gets a determined look and thinks that he needs the money for Xiaoyu's tuition. He looks at his necklace with a picture of the girl and reinforces that he needs to complete the mission at all costs. The young man thanks Uncle Wolf for the opportunity, and the older man says he promised to take care of him. Then, the captain holds out his hand and offers a golden card to our hero. The boy's jaw drops because that was a single-use, high-level card. The leader explains that the dragon is very dangerous, but the boy can't accept such a valuable item. He then shows his own cards, saying he has already improved them and can protect himself. Even so, Uncle Wolf puts the card in his pocket because he can't let his friend's son get taken out. The man walks away, saying that Zheng Qiang is indispensable to his team, leaving the blonde boy speechless. Shortly after, they arrive at a place where they find another group of adventurers. Stopping before them, they realize there are already people waiting in front of the location. They found the entrance to the secret realm, a huge, glowing gate in the middle of the rocks. At that moment, the guy who attacked the protagonist tells everyone to leave it to him. Again, he summons the giant strength hand card with a malicious smile. The large dark energy hand flies quickly toward the crystal gate. With a loud crash, the barrier breaks, revealing the passage to the other side. Entering the dark cave, the protagonist offers to go first and light the way. With that, he holds up one of his cards, which starts to glow brightly in his hand. It's an illumination spell that summons a butterfly of light for 3 hours. Everyone is surprised to see such an enhanced basic card, but one of them scoffs at the useless attribute. The captain defends the boy, explaining that basic cards use fewer energy points. It's then explained that each card master has a different amount of points to spend. The leader warns that if they spend too much energy, they'll be left defenseless and vulnerable. Suddenly, the butterfly illuminates something ahead, and the adventurers from the other group scream in terror. One of the explorers is seen on the ground, crying out in pain under enormous invisible pressure. Right after, the huge and fearsome magic crystal dragon reveals itself to everyone. The creature attacks and the other adventurers are enveloped by energy and vanish. Seeing the terrifying scene, the captain orders everyone to prepare for battle. The protagonist falls to the ground, frightened by seeing so many people defeated in an instant. He then realizes that a real combat is completely different from the duels he saw on television. Without wasting time, the colleague summons his 2 giant strength hands again. The dark energy hands fly quickly toward the giant monster's head. He manages to restrain the dragon and yells for everyone to attack quickly while he holds it. The rest of the group then launches a shower of spells like fireballs and lightning bolts. At that, the captain says to leave the final blow to him and prepares a servant card. He summons a Howling Moon Sky Wolf, a card that drains the opponent's life force. Then, the white wolf charges forward and bites the dragon's neck with all its might. With the beast on the ground, the group celebrates the victory and prepares to seal the creature. One of the members uses a blank card to absorb the defeated monster. This way, they obtain the high-level servant card of the magic crystal dragon. The colleagues are impressed with the rare card that could be worth a fortune. The captain then celebrates the successful mission and promises everyone a good meal. But suddenly, the happy expression on his face vanishes, replaced by panic. At the cave entrance, the light butterfly that was illuminating the path starts to flicker. With that, the ground begins to shake violently, and everyone wonders what is happening. From the darkness, a pair of bright red eyes and sharp claws emerge from the shadows. An even larger and more frightening red dragon appears, roaring at the group. No one recognizes the creature, and the captain says there are no records of it in the encyclopedia. He concludes that it can only be a mutant magic crystal dragon preparing an attack. The group members fall into despair, knowing they have no chance against the monster. The energy beam hits two of them, who are instantly defeated by its power. Zheng Qiang is in shock, seeing his companions disappear right in front of him. Paralyzed by fear, he falls to his knees, unable to move or react to the situation. Around him, his colleagues' cards fall to the ground, indicating they have been eliminated. With his eyes full of tears, he wonders if this is how his parents were lost. When all hope seemed lost, a mysterious voice calls the boy's name. The voice was Uncle Wolf's, who appears in front of the boy with a severely injured arm. Zheng Qiang runs to help his mentor and becomes desperate upon seeing his condition. With the man on his shoulders, the young man promises he will get him out of there safely. But the leader says he won't make it and tells the boy to use the card he gave him to escape. The protagonist is in shock, not knowing what to do, breaking into a cold sweat under the pressure. The captain yells at him not to hesitate and asks if he wants to leave his sister alone in the world. With tears in his eyes, the image of his sister comes to Zheng Qiang's mind. But he refuses to run away and says his mentor has already taken good care of both of them. He says they are the two dearest people in his life and that he will get him out of there. Then the protagonist raises the card he was given and decides to use it to save his friend. The card glows intensely and thick red chains appear around them. The boy is confused as the chains have completely trapped him, immobilizing him. This was a trap card that sacrifices the user's life force to deal massive damage. Enveloped in a red aura, he cries out in pain as a spear forms above him. The blood sacrifice lance fully materializes, draining the young man's vital energy. With incredible speed, the scarlet weapon advances toward the mutant dragon. The strike pierces the creature's chest with devastating and highly destructive power. After the attack, the protagonist's necklace breaks, and he is left unconscious and powerless. The dragon falls defeated, and Zheng Qiang's body falls motionless to the cave floor. Uncle Wolf reveals he wasn't mistaken and that the card's side effects are terrible. With a wicked smile, the man says he thought the boy could handle the dragon. Zheng Qiang's eyes widen, unable to believe what he was hearing. The traitor then picks up the defeated dragon's card and thanks the young man for being his cover. He summons his white wolf again to mount it and prepare to flee the scene. With a cold gaze, the man gets on his servant and looks down at the boy on the ground. The villain then says he will take care of his sister and that she will be more useful in the secret realm. The protagonist panics, and with eyes bloodshot with rage, he screams desperately. The former mentor lets out a malevolent laugh and says goodbye, leaving the boy behind. At that moment, the blonde boy realizes he was used the whole time as a disposable tool. With a punch to the ground, he yells out, lamenting how easily he was tricked. Crying, he says he has no ability to resist and that it's all his fault for being weak. However, the dragon everyone thought was defeated begins to move again. The creature gets up and faces the protagonist, its eyes filled with hatred and fury. The hero thinks his pathetic and short life has come to an end and has visions of his sister. But upon remembering Xiaoyi, he decides he can't give up and the card's restraint vanishes. With a new glint in his eyes, he summons his basic cards and prepares to fight. The boy then launches a series of basic spells like flames and beams of light. However, the attacks don't leave a single scratch on the monster's skin, which remains still. He yells in frustration upon realizing his basic cards can't harm the dragon. However, in the midst of his despair, he spots his companion's cards on the ground. Lying on the ground, he spots the cards of his fallen companions scattered around the area. He thinks using them would be useless against the monster and just a waste of energy. But then he remembers an important detail, and an idea sparks in his mind. His talent for enhancing basic cards can strengthen the weakest cards. He reflects that no one has ever invested so many resources into basic cards as he is about to. Seeing all those cards on the ground, he picks them up with a new glimmer of hope in his eyes. With great determination, he begins to use his ability to enhance the cards. Several success notifications appear as he focuses on a single card in his hand. A golden aura of power envelopes him as he continues the enhancement process. The dragon grows impatient and fires a blue energy beam toward the protagonist. The powerful attack hits the ground with full force, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. When the dust settles, a rock wall appears, revealing that the blow is blocked. Amid the smoke, the young man says his plan seems to have worked, and he survived. Then he stands up and faces the giant monster, ready to test his new power. He says that no one but him could succeed in cultivating a card like this. The card, enhanced 100 times, is a skeleton mage that summons a low-level servant. The hero activates the card and a small beam of light is fired at the dragon. The monster seems surprised to be hit by the seemingly insignificant attack. Suddenly, a skeleton girl with a scythe appears, saying it's her turn to show up. With a scary smile, the new servant swings her huge green scythe toward the enemy. With a battle cry, the new servant charges at the dragon and strikes it with her scythe. Zheng Qiang is in shock and wonders if that's really his low-level skeleton mage. Suddenly, the skeleton girl jumps toward her master, saying she missed him. She hugs him tightly and asks if he had forgotten about her since he hadn't summoned her. The boy gets flustered and comments on the drastic change in his servant's appearance and aura. The creature turns to the dragon and warns that the real power is yet to come, leaving the blonde boy confused. Seeing the monster prepare to attack, the card master yells for his summon to be careful. Immediately, the mutant beast fires a red energy beam toward the two of them. But the skeleton girl defends against the attack with her scythe, and a green aura envelopes her. With a swift movement, she manages to break the powerful attack into several pieces. She then turns to her master and tells him to watch her true ability in action. With a gesture, the girl summons an army of skeleton warriors that appear around her. Without wasting time, the horde of undead soldiers advances to attack the giant beast. Then the card's first effect is revealed, increasing the life of the summoned creatures. The second effect grants 30% resistance to physical damage for the servants. Soon after, the third effect of the enhanced card is shown with one of the skeletons. Now, the creature's physical attacks apply a corrosion effect on the opponent. The final effect increases the number of undead that can be summoned at once. Zhengqiang is stunned that a low-level card could have so much power. He then looks at his other cards and imagines how strong he would become if he enhanced them all. Suddenly, a loud crash draws our hero's attention back to the fight. His servant is injured and low on health but seems furious with the monster. With that, the beast enters a state of rage and attacks the skeletons with everything it has. The skeleton girl explains that the enemy's speed has tripled, making it more difficult. She then tells her master to hide because the skeletons won't last much longer. But the protagonist ignores her and summons a new card to help her in the battle. The card then summons grass spirits that begin to heal his servant's health. He says he won't hold back, as he needs to fight alongside her against the enemy. Hearing her master's words, the skeleton girl gets emotional and blushes. However, the boy realizes he only has 13 energy points and needs to be very careful. At that moment, the mutant dragon charges forward with incredible speed in his direction. With no time to spare, he prepares a low-level spell card for the fight. The card in his hand glows intensely and fires a powerful beam of light. He yells for his servant to attack the monster's neck while it's distracted. The girl understands the order and prepares to strike the opponent's weak spot. With a powerful leap, the summon flies toward the giant creature's neck. She spins her body in the air and prepares a devastating blow with her sharp scythe. The strike hits its mark, and the scythe's blade pierces the monster's thick skin. The protagonist confirms his calculation was right, as the scales are thinner there. With a smile, he concludes that the reason the dragon was defensive was because it was its weak spot. He then uses a lightning attack card and yells for his servant to get ready. The lightning bolt strikes the dragon's head with full force, causing a huge energy explosion. With the creature stunned, the protagonist runs toward it to create a distraction. The beast recovers and slams its head on the ground, but the young man manages to dodge with a jump. He then rolls on the ground and yells for his summon to attack with everything she's got. The girl understands the signal and prepares to deliver the final blow against the enemy. With a look full of fury and determination, she aims for the giant monster's neck. Her scythe glows with green energy as she shouts the name of her special ability. The powerful blow hits the dragon's weak spot and defeats it once and for all. The servant then lands on the ground with a sigh of relief for having won the battle. With a smile, she asks for praise, and the boy admits he completely underestimated her. He then pats her head, and her face turns red with happiness and embarrassment. His summon points to the card the dragon left behind and asks what he's going to do. The protagonist picks up the mutant magic crystal dragon card and gets excited. He thinks he would be invincible with the card, but remembers he doesn't have the energy to use it. But he gets the idea to sell the high-level card and become a multimillionaire. The servant then asks why her master is laughing and crying, and if he hurt his head. The boy ignores the question and celebrates that his days of suffering are finally over. The scene then changes to the card enhancement shop with a closed sign. In the reflection of the glass, Uncle Wolf appears with a sinister look and a wicked smile. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the protagonist's sister is lying down, trying to call him. The call doesn't go through, and the girl gets annoyed for not being able to talk to her brother. She complains that he broke his promise to come back soon from his part-time job. Suddenly, the young woman hears someone knocking at the door and gets up from the couch to answer. Thinking it's Zhengqiang, she opens the door furiously and asks why he took so long. But upon seeing who it was, a tear of fright immediately rolls down her eye. It was Uncle Wolf, and the surprised girl asks what he was doing there at their house. With a smile, she invites him in to wait for her brother, who hasn't returned yet. The girl then offers the man a glass of water while he sits on the couch. The villain tells her to calm down because her brother is gone in the secret realm forever. The girl is in shock, her face pale, unable to believe what she just heard. She tries to laugh and tells him not to joke around because her brother said it was a simple job. The traitor explains that the team entered a realm and encountered two powerful bosses. He shows his injured arm and lies that Zhengqiang stayed behind to save them. At the news, the girl's face fills with tears and deep despair. She screams that it's impossible and that her brother would never abandon her like that. The man watches the young woman's despair with a false expression of great sadness. He then comforts her, saying the boy sacrificed himself and asks if she wants revenge. The villain shouts that they are like his children and invites her to join his team. Amid her tears, the young woman accepts the invitation to join the group and avenge her brother. The villain hands the girl a contract and tells her to sign it to join his team. With trembling hands, she signs the paper without even reading what was written on the document. With that, the man reveals that she is now his servant and must obey him forever. The young woman is completely confused and asks the traitor what he means by that. He then explains that it was a master-servant contract and that she is now his slave. The villain thinks that the girl is a much more useful pawn than her brother ever was. But suddenly, a voice asks if it isn't rude to mistreat his sister in front of him. To everyone's surprise, Zhang Xiang appears at the door, and the girl shouts for her brother. The traitor is in shock and wonders how the boy survived the mutant dragon. The protagonist taunts the man, saying that from his expression, he didn't expect to see him alive. Furious, the villain says he arrived too late and shows the contract the young woman signed. Without a second thought, the blonde boy charges forward and punches his former mentor in the face. The impact is so strong that the man is thrown backward, falling hard onto the living room floor. The young man then gives him two choices, either cancel the contract or they fight to the end. The man gets up and says the boy is merciless but that he'll give him a chance. He challenges him to a duel. If he loses, he hands over the contract, but if he wins, he gets his arm. The desperate sister begs him not to accept and says she will work for the man. The protagonist calms her down and says he accepts the bet but has one condition for the duel. He then says that if he wins, he wants the contract and also the former captain's other hand. The villain is surprised and his face fills with rage at the young card master's audacity. Hugging his sister, the protagonist provokes the villain and asks if he's scared. But the man says he's never been afraid of anyone and accepts the bet with a furious look. The two then stare at each other intensely and make an oath to formalize the duel. It is then explained that according to the rules, both must confirm the bet and swear to the cards. With that, a duel arena materializes and the two prepare for combat. Our hero appears with his 5,000 life points, ready to start the battle. The traitor also has the same amount and the first to reach 0 or give up loses. Without wasting time, the villain raises a card and says the young man will never surpass him. With that, he summons his powerful and fearsome howling moonwolf to the battlefield. The huge white creature appears in the arena, and the man orders it to devour the enemy. The protagonist knows his opponent is strong and reflects that he only has 6 cards to use. He then looks at his enhanced basic cards and prepares his combat strategy. The boy concludes that he has no chance in a direct confrontation and decides to use his trump card. With a green glow, he summons the skeleton mage card to face the enemy beast. His servant appears and tells her master to leave it to her, charging toward the giant wolf. The former mentor scoffs at the move and says a low-level servant is completely useless. But the girl fires an energy beam that hits the wolf and reduces its health. The villain is completely shocked by the power of the boy's summon and doesn't understand. Afraid of losing his servant, he recalls it to his hand, removing it from the battlefield. He didn't expect such a weak creature to be so strong and wonders how much it was enhanced. The villain admits the card is strong but tells the young man not to get his hopes up yet. He then states that the real show is just beginning with a smile. At that, the man summons a new card, a spirit rat with increased agility. Next, he uses a spell card called Warhorn to strengthen his servants. The ability grants invincibility for 1 turn to all his creatures on the field. With this, he orders the rat to ignore all obstacles and attack the protagonist. The creature charges forward with incredible speed and attacks with its sharp claws. Our hero is surprised by the speed of the attack and can barely react in time. But his servant jumps in front and says she won't let him hurt her master. With her scythe, she manages to block the dark creature's blow and protect the boy. Suddenly, the wolf appears from above, and the girl yells for her master to get out of there. The villain then yells for his wolf to attack with full force and finish off the servant. The white beast charges forward, its eyes glowing, and prepares a devastating blow. The wolf hits the girl's scythe with a powerful impact that throws her backward. The protagonist is also hit by the shockwave and yells his servant's name. Meanwhile, the spirit rat takes advantage of the distraction to attack the young man from behind. Seeing the scene, the boy's sister screams in desperation, afraid of what will happen. The attack hits the protagonist squarely, piercing him with its sharp claws. With the blow, the young man spits up blood and falls to his knees, severely wounded by the attack. His sister and his servant scream in despair upon seeing the card master's condition. Even injured, the protagonist yells for his servant to stay focused on her opponent. She's worried, but the boy insists that she concentrate on dealing with the wolf. He thinks that the invincibility only lasts 1 turn, but he can't use his final ability. The young man realizes his summon is busy and will have to face the rat alone. He then admits that Uncle Wolf has pushed him to the limit even without using his strongest card. The villain scoffs, saying the boy is smart but that won't change his fate. With a wicked smile, he claims the protagonist is destined to lose the duel. But the boy asks if his former mentor has ever heard of a certain strategy. He says the best time to counterattack is when an attack is coming. At that, the protagonist summons a small fireball and launches it at the spirit rat. The spell hits the creature squarely, breaking its invincibility barrier. The traitor praises the move but asks how he will deal with the monster's speed. Immediately, the creature advances at an impressive speed toward the boy. With its sharp claws, the rat strikes the young man in the face, injuring him badly. The impact is so strong that the protagonist is thrown far away, his body bloodied. The creature throws him back with a powerful blow, leaving him unresponsive on the ground. His life points drop to 2,000, and the villain sees a chance to end the duel. He then orders his spirit rat to deliver the final blow to the fallen and wounded boy. The creature advances and prepares to attack the young man, who seems defenseless on the ground. But at the last second, the protagonist reveals another basic card with a defiant look. The card in his hand glows and a blinding light fills the duel arena. With a swift movement, he grabs the rat and says he's got it and there's no escape. He then activates a basic lightning spell card to use against the creature. A massive purple bolt of lightning descends from the sky with impressive destructive power. The spell hits them both, and the protagonist's life drops to just 50 points. His sister calls him reckless and thinks about teaching him a lesson when the fight is over. The concern on the girl's face is visible as she fears for her brother's future. With teary eyes, she yells for Zhang Qiang not to lose the battle, no matter what. The villain praises the boy's courage but asks what he can do in this pitiful state. But even injured, the hero stands up and says his mentor seems very overconfident. He then warns that the invincibility effect of the war horn is about to end. Zhang Qiang orders his servant to ignore the wolf and attack Uncle Wolf with full force. With a wicked smile, the skeleton girl confirms she was waiting for this moment. The summon stumps hard on the ground and propels herself into the attack with great speed. She spins in the air and advances toward the white beast, preparing her scythe for the blow. His servant concentrates the energy in the green blade and shouts the first part of the ability's name. A huge beam of green light shoots out from her scythe as she shouts the rest of the name. Realizing the imminent danger, the villain's eyes widen, and he screams in terror. The wolf is hit squarely by the blow and howls in pain from the force of the impact. The powerful energy wave completely destroys Uncle Wolf's servant in one go. The attack also hits Uncle Wolf, who is caught squarely in the green energy explosion. With that, a huge explosion of light illuminates the entire duel arena with great intensity. At that, the villain screams in pain as his life points drop to just 10 remaining. The impact of the blow is so strong that the man spits up blood and is severely injured. Even so, he admits the boy surprised him and says he almost won the battle. Zhang Qiang realizes he made a mistake and thinks he needs to seize the chance to win now. He then orders his servant to quickly use the Summon the Dead ability. With a battle cry, the girl prepares to summon her minions and crush the enemy. She then uses her ability, and several skeleton warriors rise from the arena floor. A horde of skeletons advances against the opponent's beast, which is still on the field. The protagonist thinks he only needs to land one more hit to decide the outcome. Without wasting time, the undead warriors surround the creature and attack it with everything they have. The servant then moves in to deliver the final blow to the giant beast and end the combat. However, the former mentor praises the boy but says he forgot one important thing. With a smile, he reveals his strongest card, the high-level magic crystal dragon. He then summons the legendary creature to help him purge all evil from the place. The enormous crystal dragon appears in the arena and costs 35 energy points. Its abilities include the powerful dragon's breath and the fearsome dragon's claw. With a single attack, the purple beast completely destroys the entire skeleton army. Furthermore, the crystal dragon heals the villain and restores all his life points. The villain reveals his rank a talent, which restores his life with the damage from his servants. Zhang Qiang is in shock, his face pale, wondering how that is possible. The arena shows the enormous purple dragon on one side and the army of skeletons on the other. With a wicked and mocking laugh, the former mentor scoffs at our hero's despair. He asks if the young man isn't desperate to be just one step away from victory. With a gesture, he says it was very close, but the boy couldn't win in the end. But the protagonist struggles to his feet and yells that he hasn't lost the duel yet. The traitor then takes another card from his hand and prepares for a new attack. With a look of contempt, he says he will crush the boy's unrealistic dream. He summons a giant machete, a medium-level equipment card that costs 10 points. Without wasting time, the man charges forward and destroys several skeletons with his new weapon. The hero thinks he's out of options, as his servant's ability can only be used once. He looks at his last cards and concludes that he has nothing that can change the outcome. He reflects that his mage will have a hard time against the dragon, and he would be left vulnerable. His servant then apologizes to her master for not being able to complete the task. But the boy pats her and says it's okay because there's still a chance. He thinks about his sister's fate if he loses, and if she will have to become a slave. With a face full of fury, he denies it and says he can't allow that to happen. He then thinks that there is still one move left, and that it's worth trying at this moment. With that, he reveals the mutant dragon card with its absurd power attributes. With tears in his eyes, the hero regrets having to use the card because he wanted to sell it to get rich. His servant notices her master's strange look and asks what's happening to him. He then tells his summon that the outcome of the battle depends entirely on her. The skeleton girl is completely confused, not understanding what her master means by that. The protagonist orders her to use the Summon the Dead ability to block the former mentor. At that, the boy calculates that his opponent has already used 5 cards and has few energy points left. He then concludes that Uncle Wolf is at his limit and can no longer offer resistance. Without wasting time, the skeleton mage summons her army of undead to attack the villain. The traitor wonders if the boy realized it's useless and has simply given up fighting. But the young man says the outcome isn't decided and that he'll risk everything on one move. With a determined look, he shouts that now is the time to turn the tables in his favor. He then uses his enhancement ability on the skeleton mage card with all his strength. The former mentor is shocked by the red aura and wonders what that is on the field. Suddenly, a huge red silhouette of a dragon appears behind the skeleton girl. The villain recognizes the creature and yells that it's the magic crystal dragon card. The protagonist's servant is completely enveloped by the energy of the mutant dragon and its card. With that, a massive pillar of red energy rises to the heavens with terrifying power. At that, the skeleton girl's body begins to disintegrate amidst all that energy. The hero despairs, thinking the enhancement failed, but the card shouldn't break. But a new silhouette appears in the light, and the boy looks up, shocked by what he sees. The skeleton mage card has been enhanced to 120 with new power attributes. It now has effects like Return from the Grave and a much larger undead army. The protagonist explains that every 20 levels, the card gains a new, much stronger attribute. The former mentor is furious and yells, asking what the boy was thinking when he did that. He says the young man wasted a treasure, because that card would only show its power in his hands. But the hero replies that it was the villain who taught him that a card master must win at all costs. He then orders his skeleton mage to defeat the traitor, no matter what happens to her. With a determined look, the servant tells her master to leave it to her and prepares to attack. The villain says that since the boy dug his own grave, he will grant his wish to be defeated. At that, he orders his magic crystal dragon to advance and finish off the skeleton mage for good. The huge purple beast prepares its dragon's breath to fire at the protagonist's servant. The powerful energy beam hits the girl squarely with overwhelming destructive power. The summon is engulfed in a huge red explosion and disappears amid the smoke of the attack. The shockwave of the blow is so strong that it throws the protagonist backward onto the ground. When the dust settles, the battlefield is completely destroyed by the beast's power. Even on the ground, the young man yells to his servant, saying that now everything depends only on her. The villain laughs and asks if after all that commotion, that was all he had. He then tells the boy to stay where he is because it's time to end this nonsense. But with a smile on his face, the protagonist agrees that it was about time to end the duel. The hero then asks if, with the remaining energy, the villain can summon another card to save himself. The villain wonders what the boy means and if he still has a trump card to turn the tables. The protagonist then asks if Uncle Wolf isn't curious about what he's up to. Suddenly, one of the skeletons reappears and charges to attack the traitor from behind. At that, the skeleton mage reappears in the air and prepares a new strike with her sharp scythe. With a swift movement, she advances toward the former mentor for a surprise attack. She then shouts the name of her ability and descends upon the man on the ground. A huge red explosion occurs on the battlefield with devastating power. The villain is caught squarely in the attack and is enveloped by the destructive energy wave. The impact is so strong that the man is thrown backward and falls hard onto the arena floor. His life points reach 0, and the hero reveals it was all to distract his attention. With his master's defeat, the crystal dragon roars in fury for the last time. The creature and the duel arena begin to dissolve with the end of the combat between the two. Uncle Wolf lies on the ground, his face full of rage, as the winner has already been decided. With a cold look, the protagonist watches his former mentor, defeated and unresponsive. The traitor yells that it's impossible and asks how the mage used her move twice. The young man says it's not surprising, as everyone thinks cards have a limit. He then reveals that cards can be enhanced infinitely with new attributes. Her 5th attribute allows the servant to be reborn and use her ability again in battle. But he says none of that matters and tells the man to honor the bet they made. The villain panics and asks if the boy is going to be so cruel as to cripple him. The protagonist says he didn't want to do this, but since the villain targeted his sister, it's a fight to the end. On the ground, the former mentor promises to nullify the contract with the young woman to try and save himself. Suddenly, the spirits of the man's cards appear with a menacing aura around him. With a pale face and breaking into a cold sweat, the traitor panics, not understanding what's happening. The creatures then begin to repeat in unison that the oath of the cards cannot be violated. A glowing scroll appears, and the villain realizes that this is the reaction of the oath. It's explained that if the loser ignores the bet, the rules are activated against him. Desperate, the man shouts that he gives up his arm and begs them not to eliminate him. The creatures advance, and the traitor screams for the young man to save him from their fury. The hero then covers his ears tightly so as not to hear his former mentor's screams. After the commotion, a silence falls over the place, and the sky calms down again. The villain's body falls to the grass, and his cards are scattered around him on the ground. With the end of the duel, the battle arena begins to dissolve, returning to the city. His sister runs toward him and shouts the boy's name with a smile on her face. She hugs him tightly, and the young man tells her not to make a fuss because he's fine. With teary eyes, the girl asks if he knows how worried she was about him. He then comforts her and says that dual injuries disappear at the end of the battle. The girl then pinches him and says she'll deal with him later for being so reckless. As they walk away, the young woman asks her brother what happened to Uncle Wolf. The protagonist gets a serious look and a drop of sweat trickles down his face. The boy explains that the rules of the card oath cannot be broken under any circumstances. After everything, the siblings sit on the living room couch, still very shaken by what happened. The young woman then asks in a low voice if Uncle Wolf really deserved that end. She laments that only today did she see his true face and wanted to have asked him many things. Zhang Qiang thinks that the man raised them only to use them as tools in the end. He believes the former mentor had some secret that made him completely obsessed. With a forced smile, he says that now the villain is free and that maybe it's for the best. His sister agrees, but soon after, her gaze turns to a picture frame in the room. In the photo, the two appear as children next to the man who was once their father figure. The protagonist remains silent for a moment, not knowing what to say to the girl. He then gets up from the couch and walks toward the furniture where the photograph is. With a thud on the table, he says firmly that from now on, they will look to the future. The young woman is surprised by the sudden change and determination in her brother's voice. He shows the skeleton mage card, saying that now he knows how strong he has become. The girl takes the card with shining eyes and says that it's very cool. He cries and laughs at the same time and tells her he had to sacrifice a dragon to enhance it. His sister doesn't understand anything from his strange reaction and stares at him with a question mark. Suddenly, she pushes him hard onto the couch and pins him down, asking what he's doing. With a dark aura, she demands an explanation about the Secret Realm story. Awkwardly, the boy says that fighting for your life can also be a part-time job. The girl pressures him, asking why he didn't tell the truth and how many more secrets he's hiding. Scared, the boy apologizes and says he did it because the reward was very good. He then thinks fearfully that he's going to get a beating from his sister after all this mess. But instead of hitting him, the young woman hugs him tightly, leaving the protagonist surprised. She calls him a fool and asks why he is apologizing when he risked his life for her. The card master is moved upon hearing the affectionate words from his sister, Xiao Yi. The girl then pinches his cheek and complains that he can't be cute for a moment. She then forbids him from doing dangerous things again and tells him to always talk to her. Suddenly, their moment is interrupted by a noise coming from the front door. A silver-haired police officer enters, saying she came to respond to a call they made. The two siblings are completely in shock seeing the police officer standing right in front of them. The boy turns pale and is very scared upon recognizing the officer who just arrived. From outside the house, you can hear the young man's desperate screams, asking her to listen to him. The officer then sees the scene of the girl sitting on her brother's lap and gets the wrong idea. With a look of pure hatred, the officer glares at the protagonist, unable to believe what she's seeing. Without a second thought, she charges forward and pins him to the ground, yelling that he's under arrest. Pinned to the floor, the young man screams desperately, not understanding why he's being arrested like that. The investigator yells that it's her duty to arrest him for attacking his underage sister. The young woman tries to explain the situation and says the officer completely misunderstood everything. Embarrassed, the officer coughs and tells them not to do things like that again in the future. The two siblings agree with an awkward smile, hoping the misunderstanding is over. But the investigator says that using body parts as a bet is a serious violation of the rules. The sister gets worried and asks if Zheng Qiang will be arrested because of his bet. The woman explains that since it was his first offense, he will only receive a warning for it. The girl celebrates enthusiastically, and the boy sighs in relief that he doesn't have to go to jail. The officer then remembers another important matter to discuss with the two young people. She hands over Uncle Wolf's cards and belongings, as he had no other living relatives. Since the man was their legal guardian, the entire inheritance now belongs to the two siblings. She explains that even the card shop is now their property by right. Xiao Yi is very happy and thanks the investigator with a very tight hug. The protagonist asks his sister to stop while he looks at the items they just received. He is shocked by the feeling of getting rich overnight with all that inheritance. The card master already starts imagining the life of luxury he will have with the new cards in the shop. But suddenly his expression changes and a serious look takes over his face. He remembers that because of the dragon card, his former mentor betrayed him and hurt many people. The boy holds the crystal dragon card while observing the scene in the background of the room. The police officer also watches him with an attentive and suspicious look about his intentions. She then asks the young woman for a drink, who remembers that she forgot to offer one earlier. The girl runs to the kitchen to prepare tea for the unexpected visitor. Alone with the protagonist, the investigator calls him over for a private conversation. The scene changes, and the two appear walking and talking in a more private place. The boy asks if there's anything else they need to discuss alone, away from his sister. She asks him to call her sister Shu and says he seems sad about the villain's demise. But the young man says it's not necessary for her to try to comfort him on this sensitive subject. The officer then reveals there's new progress in the investigation about his parents. Zheng Qiang is completely shocked by the unexpected news he just heard. With great anxiety, he demands that she tell him everything she knows immediately. The investigator says that Uncle Wolf received a lot of money after his parents' disappearance. The hero panics, realizing his former mentor might be connected to the case. With a serious look, the woman confirms that his suspicions about the man are correct. He then concludes that his parents' disappearance was caused by the former captain. Desperate, the boy grabs her and asks who sent the money to the villain. He shakes her forcefully and pressures her to reveal the sender's name. The officer then reveals the name of the corporation behind the money transfer. The transfer came from the Zheng Corporation, also known as the Zheng family. The protagonist is confused because that's the same last name as his and his sister's. The officer explains that because it's a powerful family, her superiors are afraid to investigate. She then promises that she will find out the truth, no matter what the obstacles are. But she asks him not to get involved with the Zheng family for the good of both siblings. With his head down, the young man agrees and thanks Sister Shu for all her help with the case. The woman says she's leaving so as not to raise suspicion and reminds him of what she said earlier. Alone, the protagonist is furious at the thought that the powerful Zheng family is involved. At that, he has a vision from the past of a man being questioned about a betrayal. With a wicked smile, he reveals that without the old man's passing, he wouldn't be the family's leader. The traitor says he did it all to take the Zheng family to a new level of power. He then turns to the protagonist's father and demands that he hand over a sacred card. With a determined look, our hero's father refuses to give the card to the villain. He then holds the card tightly but is hit by a surprise attack from the traitor. The young man realizes that his uncle eliminated his grandfather to steal the card, and then his parents. Back in the present, the boy's face is filled with hatred and a thirst for revenge. He then apologizes to Sister Shu for not being able to keep his earlier promise. With great anger, he swears he will destroy the Zheng family and make his uncle pay for everything. The scene then shifts to the enhancement shop that now belongs to the two siblings. Inside the place, the protagonist starts organizing all the scattered boxes. With a tired sigh, the boy seems satisfied with the work he's done in the place. He then looks at the pile of boxes and concludes that those must be all the cards. Suddenly, his sister enters the room and asks why he's hiding there all alone. With a tray in her hands, she complains that Sister Shu left without even saying goodbye. The young man says she arrived at the right time because he finished organizing the shop's cards. He explains that the cards are weak and only serve as material to strengthen others. The young woman asks if he's going to sell the cards, but he says no and that he wants to use them better. The protagonist reflects that in the battle against the villain, he almost lost due to a lack of experience. So he asks his sister to get all her cards, and the young woman agrees to the request. The girl places her cards on the table, and her brother adds one of his to the set. He analyzes her basic cards and says her potential isn't being fully utilized at the moment. The boy explains that her biggest weakness is the lack of cards for a prolonged fight. With a smile, he says the most suitable card for her is one he has saved. With that, he reveals the magic crystal dragon card he got in the dark cave. The girl is very happy and asks if he's really going to give her such a valuable card. However, she gets worried and asks if they'll still have money for her school tuition. The boy reassures her and says he'll find a way to make money for both of them. He comforts her by saying her talent is superior and a scholarship is guaranteed. The young woman thinks that if he had more energy points, he could use the dragon himself. The protagonist then says he can still use Uncle Wolf's cards and shows her one of them. The card is the spirit rat, which summons a servant with agility increased by 30%. The girl is confused and looks at her brother, not understanding the reason for that strange choice. She asks why he didn't choose the Howling Moon Wolf, which costs 10 energy points. He explains that the rat has better cost effectiveness and that utility is more important. With a smile, he reminds her that his talent is precisely the enhancement of basic cards. The girl sees the cards on the table and asks if his body can handle enhancing the rat so much. With a determined look, the hero says she won't know if he doesn't try first. He reflects that his skeleton mage is strong but has low health and physical damage. At that, the boy admits he's exhausted from training and doesn't know if his body can take any more. But he refuses to stop because his enemy is the Zheng group and he needs experience. He then takes the spirit rat card and places it on the table to begin the process. With great energy, he uses his basic card enhancement ability with all his might. A huge explosion of light illuminates the entire room as the process takes place. When the light subsides, he opens his eyes and celebrates that the enhancement was a success. However, the card has disappeared and he asks where it went, leaving his sister confused. Suddenly, a rattling sound draws the boy's attention to a corner of the room. Behind the boxes, a girl with rat ears appears, and the protagonist observes her. With a scared face, the new servant lets out a very loud scream with a comical expression. She then cowers in the corner and asks him not to hit her, admitting she was wrong. Zhengqiang is confused and wonders if that girl is really his spirit rat. At that moment, the creature's card appears, confirming the new summon's identity. The card, enhanced to 80, has new attributes like agility and shadow clones. The hero is very happy with the new attributes and the fast attacker he needed. He then notices the servant's appearance and compliments how big and white she is. At that, his sister appears and kicks him in the face, yelling about what he's paying attention to. The impact of the blow is so strong that the boy's slipper even slides off his foot. The protagonist screams in pain from the kick while his sister desperately calls his name. At that instant, the new servant's eyes glow with an intense and mysterious purple light. With incredible speed, the girl catches him in the air before he hits the ground. The summon asks if her boss is okay and he says yes, shocked by her speed. She then asks him to forget what happened, and the boy agrees but asks her to let him go. The young man feels very tired and says he spent all his energy enhancing cards. But suddenly he notices something, and his eyes widen with an important discovery. He sees that his energy points have increased and wonders if his talent can still improve. With a big smile, he says she's his lucky star and invites her to his team. Then, with a mischievous look, he says he wants to test his tactics, and the servant calls him a mean boss. His sister stops him and yells that he can't do anything else today because he's too exhausted. She then drags him away, saying he needs to rest, and the boy obeys. Suddenly, the cell phone in his pocket starts vibrating with a new notification. He reads the messages and is confused by an invitation to a card competition. The tournament prize is up to 5 million yuan, and the young man is completely shocked. With his eyes shining with greed, he asks where he can sign up for the tournament. But upon seeing one of the participants, his face turns serious, and he recognizes the man on the screen. It was Zheng Ziren, a direct descendant of the Zheng group, his biggest and most powerful enemy. He didn't expect to meet the family's eldest son and says he'll start with him. With the phone in his hand, he prepares to face his first challenge against the Zheng family. The boy arranges to meet at a cafe to learn more about the card competition. With that, he tries to sneak out of the house so his sister won't see him leaving. But the young woman hears a strange noise and turns her head, completely suspicious. She asks what's going on, and he lies that a client asked for help with their cards. He then says a quick goodbye and promises to be home before dinner time. However, as soon as the door closes, the girl realizes something very strange is happening. She finds her brother's behavior very weird and is sure he's hiding something. With a face full of anger, she thinks he's up to something behind her back again. A while later, the protagonist arrives at the coffee shop to meet the person from the message. Inside, a red-haired girl calls out to him, and he's surprised it's not a man. This Jukiankian says with a smile that winning the 5 million depends entirely on him. The young man then flicks her on the head and tells her not to get excited since they haven't even started yet. With her hand on her forehead, she explains that with his help strengthening the cards, she'll win easily. The card master then asks her to first explain how this competition works. The girl reveals that behind the event is the powerful Shen family from Jiangai City. Our hero recognizes the name and remembers they've controlled the card industry for decades. She confirms and says the tournament is open to anyone between 16 and 20 years old. The boy finds it suspicious that so many important families are participating in such a competition. Meanwhile, outside, someone is watching them, holding a cup of hot coffee. It was his sister, Xiaoyi, who followed him and is now furious, thinking he's on a date. She remembers that Jukiankian has been chasing her brother since childhood and still hasn't given up. With a wicked smile, the young woman decides she's going to teach the girl an unforgettable lesson. Suddenly, the redhead sneezes and the protagonist looks at her, completely confused. With a smile, she wonders who's talking bad about her behind her back right now. The boy jokes that she must have offended a lot of people and might have enemies in the tournament. The girl then stands up and says that lowering morale before the competition is a terrible idea. At that, she sits next to him with a look full of confidence for the battle. With a smile, she says that if they meet their enemies, they just have to fight until they can't take it anymore. The young man thinks it would be a miracle to win and says he just did some research on the tournament. He shows the participants from powerful families like the Zheng, Zhanglu, and Lai on his cell phone. The most dangerous, according to the data, is Zheng Xiren with his very powerful S-level talent. With that, he can even use a sacred-level card, something she has never seen in her life. The protagonist says it won't be easy to win the 5 million, and they need a strategy. The girl panics, feeling like she'll need to start using her brain to think. The boy is speechless at his teammates' exaggerated and comical reaction. She then admits she never passed the card theory class in school, which is why she doesn't know. Far away, the protagonist's sister complains that she can't hear what the two are talking about. The card master drinks his coffee but suddenly feels that something strange is happening. Quickly, the young woman hides behind a newspaper so as not to be discovered by her brother. The redhead then asks if something is wrong, as she noticed her friend's strange look. The boy says he feels a familiar gaze watching him, but thinks it's just his imagination. At that, the redhead chokes and asks if by any chance it's his overprotective sister. She grabs him desperately, saying that if the girl sees them together, she'll finish her off. Scared, she pulls him to leave, and he asks if she doesn't want to enhance her cards anymore. The girl says they'll go to the registration point first, leaving him even more confused. His sister thinks about the registration and becomes even more suspicious of what's happening. With great anger, she is sure he was up to something behind her back. Shortly after, the two arrive at a huge building, and the boy looks at the place curiously. The redhead then explains that this is the location of the Shen family's card competition. The huge building is the headquarters of the Shen group, and several other competitors are already there. With great excitement, the girl pulls him, saying they'd better hurry to register. However, a group of suspicious guys watches the two enter the building with a smile. Inside, she finds the registration point and calls the protagonist to go sign up. The card master then walks toward the counter to register for the tournament. Shortly after, she asks if he managed to register, and if everything went well with the process. He says it was easy, but she complains that she was rejected after filling out her information. The boy is surprised and asks if it's serious that she couldn't sign up for the event. At that, he spots a man who seems to be one of the organizers and decides to go ask. The girl then explains the situation and asks why she doesn't meet the tournament's requirements. The man reveals that the competition is to find a husband for the eldest daughter of the Shen family. The two are completely shocked to discover the true nature of the competition. With his mouth open, the protagonist asks if the tournament is really to find a husband. With his eyes red with anger, he demands an explanation, but she tries to come up with an excuse. Awkwardly, the girl suggests that they just get out of there as quickly as possible. She says that if his sister finds out she tricked him into an arranged marriage, she's toast. The boy then understands why all the competitors are young people from important families. He concludes that the Zheng family wants an alliance with the Shens, but he won't allow it. With a determined smile, the young man states that he has made up his mind and will continue to participate. The girl is completely confused by her friend's sudden and unexpected decision. At that, she puts her hand on his forehead to see if he has a fever or is sick. The redhead then asks if he doesn't have a fever because he doesn't seem to be thinking straight. But he says with a smile that no rule states the winner must marry the girl. With a greedy look, the boy reveals he's going to take the prize money and simply leave. His friend's jaw drops, and she is speechless at the protagonist's bold and audacious plan. With a smile, she supports him and tells him to defeat all the rich hares in the competition. She then says goodbye and says she'll leave first since there's nothing else to do there. But suddenly, the card master grabs her by the shoulder and stops her from leaving the place. With a dark look, he asks if she thinks she can just leave after the mess she caused. The girl promises she'll do anything to help him, and that she'll go all the way with him. The boy gets closer and asks what they'll do if the rich families try to force him to marry. With a serious look, he asks his friend to help him escape if things go wrong. He then offers to split the prize with her in a 30-70 ratio if everything works out. Upon hearing the proposal, the girl's eyes sparkle, and she asks if he's serious. With great excitement, the redhead hugs him tightly, and the boy complains for her to let him go. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the scene changes to a very luxurious office hallway. In a room, a man complains that his daughter has ruined another perfect marriage alliance. The silver-haired young woman says that if the guy isn't skilled enough, she won't get married. With a determined look, she states she will only marry someone who is stronger than her. The father then slams the table and yells that the family will never let her do as she pleases. He reveals that he has organized a card tournament, and the final winner will be her husband. The girl then asks if he's happy selling his own daughter so blatantly. At that, she thinks that if she defeats all the competitors, she won't have to marry anyone anymore. The man says it's not a bad idea to let the arrogant girl taste the realities of society. With that, he hands the competition documents to his daughter with a look of contempt. The young woman accepts the challenge and tells him to just wait and see who will be on the winner's podium. She then says she will crush everyone, and suddenly a voice asks who dares to mess with her. Hearing the familiar voice, the girl is surprised and turns to see who just arrived. A woman with silver hair and a blue uniform appears, and the young woman calls her sister. With a smile, the girl asks if her older sister is on vacation from work. The woman then pats her head and says she's still on official duty at the company. She explains that she has a complicated case and needs her father's authority to investigate. The officer then asks if her sister fought with their father, and the young woman complains that he's being irrational. Upon hearing the story, the older sister holds back a laugh at the family's unusual situation. With a loud laugh, she mocks the idea of a marriage contest, and the girl gets annoyed. The officer then apologizes and says that if there's no one interesting, she'll help her run away. With her eyes shining, the young woman celebrates and is very happy with her sister's proposal. They then decide to go to the competition venue to see what kind of weird people have signed up. The scene changes to a waiting room where someone complains that the competition hasn't started yet. This is Zhang Ziren, the direct descendant of the Zhang family, who seems very impatient with the delay. His colleagues say the Shen family should just hand her over to their young master. Angrily, the hare says that if they did that, he would have no way to show his true strength. The boy thinks that helping his father with this show will make the Zhang family's stock prices soar. With a wicked smile, he says he will take them to see the world and how he crushes the useless ones. Meanwhile, our hero and his friend are lost, and he asks if she turned the map upside down. Suddenly, a click draws their attention to a door opening in the hallway. Zhang Ziren comes out of the room and walks toward them with a look of superiority. The protagonist tenses up and recognizes his greatest enemy right there in front of him. The hero of the Zhang family stops and glares at the young man with an unfriendly expression. With a smile, he asks if the boy is also a competitor and which family he is from. With a determined look, Zhang Qiang introduces himself as an individual card master and stares him down. Ziren looks down on him for being a commoner and questions the Shen family for allowing such trash to compete. He then warns the boy to give up now and not dare to enter the stage to waste his time. With contempt, the hare turns and tells our hero to simply disappear from there. But with an ironic smile, Zhang Qiang thanks his enemy for his good intentions. The scene shifts to a huge stadium, and the Shen family's card tournament officially begins. The battle arena is empty as the first competitors are called to fight. Outside, the protagonist and his friend observe the other participants who are there. They then see Zhang Ziren's group with his two companions with a look of contempt. There is also a red-eyed man, another popular competitor with the girls at the venue. The girl asks if he's nervous, and the boy asks if she would believe him. At that, the card master points to the silhouette of the red-eyed man, saying he's his opponent. His friend warns him not to be fooled, as he is from a very dangerous gangster family. She explains that the family is rumored to have connections to the dark side of the card world. Scared, the girl changes the subject and points to the white-haired boy who looks weak. But the hero says he is even more formidable and from a powerful family established in the city. He says that the Sabi family has a prodigy with S-level talent, and the girl despairs. The boy shows her it's too late, as the live broadcast has already started, and they can't back out now. The redhead panics upon realizing the event is being broadcast live to everyone. She cries in fear because his sister will take her out, and the young man tells her to take a deep breath. Suddenly, a shout of "Bro" draws everyone's attention to what is happening there. The opponent gets annoyed and yells that the match is about to start, and they are still chatting. On the big screen, the hero's information appears, calling the only commoner in the tournament's round. The boy is speechless while his opponent stares at him with a drop of sweat on his face. At that, the big guy laughs and mocks the young man for thinking he can marry the princess. With a wicked look, the man says it's not bad, and that he'll make sure he loses quickly. The announcer then declares that the match will begin and asks unrelated people to leave. His friend yells for him to go all out but to admit defeat if he can't win. The protagonist thinks is his first step toward revenge against the Zhang family, but he says that before that, he needs to deal with the problem right in front of him. With that, the battle arena materializes and the two prepare for the big fight. Without wasting time, his opponent charges forward and prepares an orange equipment card. A rhinoceros armor then envelopes him, and he charges at our hero with all his might. The impact of the blow is powerful, and the protagonist is thrown backward by the force of the attack. But the young man says that works perfectly for him, and prepares one of his cards. He then summons his spirit rat, who appears saying she got the boss's message. With a battle cry, the servant charges forward and attacks the armor with her sharp blades. The man scoffs at her and asks if she thinks she can break his defense with weak claws. At that, he summons a giant hammer and prepares to smash the protagonist's summon. The hero yells his servant's name as she is hit squarely by the enemy's devastating blow. Even injured, the girl gets up and faces the opponent with a look full of determination. The servant yells for her boss to be careful, and the enemy prepares to attack with the hammer. With a cry of goodbye, the man launches his devastating blow with all his strength. But the spirit rat manages to save her master in her arms before the impact on the ground. The protagonist then summons his other card and tells the skeleton mage to contain the enemy. The girl appears with her scythe and says she understood the message, launching into an attack. The blow hits the armor, but the man yells that she can't break his defense. Suddenly, the competitor's eyes widen, completely shocked by the scene. He can't believe a basic card injured him and thinks it's a special attribute. With a smile, the hero asks if he's finally noticed what's happening. He reveals his two servants and says they are for dealing with slow and clumsy brutes. Even so, he reflects that he would be eliminated in an instant if he were hit directly. The opponent yells that it's impossible because the stronger the card, the easier it is to break. The card master and his summon then exchange a confident look for the next move. At that, the spirit rat charges forward with incredible speed across the battle arena. She then uses her shadow clones attribute, and several of them surround the giant enemy. The clones then attack the man from all sides with their sharp claws and blades. The card's new attribute has a chance to cause continuous bleeding on the opponent. The protagonist thinks he was right and that his servant found all the enemy's weaknesses. His skeleton mage then prepares to deliver the finishing blow and end the fight. With a battle cry, the servant launches her powerful guillotine against the opponent in the arena. The blow hits squarely and the enemy's life drops with a cry of pain and despair. On his knees, the man can't believe he was defeated by an opponent so much weaker than him. With his hands in his pockets, the protagonist approaches and asks what's so impossible. He then reveals that his talent allows his cards to be enhanced infinitely. The competitor accuses him of cheating, and the hero gets annoyed with his opponent's stubbornness. With a wicked smile, the man says that since the young man cheated, he'll use everything he has. At that, he prepares a purple card and says he won't hold back in the battle against him anymore. The boy recognizes the aura of a medium-level card but realizes something is wrong. A huge red creature appears, and the young man discovers it's a forbidden card from the underworld. He remembers Uncle Wolf's card and realizes it's a modified and unrecognized card. The opponent's body then begins to transform, with red spikes appearing on his arms. With a wicked smile and sharp teeth, the man says he will show him what true fear is. The demonic creature stares at the protagonist with its red eyes glowing with hatred. The monster then prepares to attack the young man, who seems defenseless in front of the enemy. The hero panics and thinks it's over, as there's no way he can defeat the creature. But suddenly, a mysterious voice yells for the monster to stop the attack immediately. A woman in a blue outfit and a cap appears on the battlefield to everyone's surprise. She then reveals a divine level card with an intense golden glow in her hand. With that, thick golden chains emerge and bind the demonic creature tightly. The monster says a divine card won't hold it, but she tells it to look up. In the sky, a giant angel appears with a golden aura and a cross of light in her hand. With a loud crash, the golden chains that held the monster break. Our hero is completely shocked by the scene and the power of the new divine card. Fallen, the man wonders if that was a divine level card and if everyone is that strong. The woman then tells him not to worry as the Shen family lent the cards. She says it's to stop cheaters and the boy is shocked by the woman's power. She then wishes him good luck and warns that the result will not be voided, and the boy thanks her. At that, the protagonist looks at the stands and sees a silhouette watching the fight. The silver-haired girl finds him interesting and wants to see him finish the match. Suddenly, a hand slams on the railing, drawing the young girl's attention. It was the police officer's sister, who yells at her not to get carried away by the tournament competitor. The officer then holds her and tells her to be careful because Zhang Qiang is no good. She yells that he's a pervert and tried to do things with his younger sister. The young woman blushes, surprised by her sister's accusation. The officer also says it was the day after their guardian passed away and that it was planned. With a serious look, the older sister warns her not to be attracted to him. But the young woman calms her down and says she's not thinking about getting married and tells her to sit down. The officer reflects that her sister is a card fanatic and wonders why he is there. Then, with wide eyes, the woman seems to have an idea of what's happening. She thinks he fell in love, and because she's older, he's looking for someone similar to her. The girl asks what's wrong with her sister, who is blushing and lost in her delusions. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, the redhead praises her friend for defeating the brute effortlessly. She then offers to give him a massage, but he tells her to go away as the result isn't out yet. The protagonist then points to the screen and tells them to watch the game first. His friend asks why no one has lost any health, and he jokes that it's a clash of experts. In the arena, the two competitors face each other, and the girl wonders if that's really true. The white-haired man says he's tested enough and it's time to reveal his trump card. Zyron then scoffs and asks if he also has a trump card, calling him a wimp. At that, the competitor becomes furious and yells, asking who he was calling a wimp. Zyron then proposes that they both reveal their trump cards, and the opponent agrees with a smile. The man in white then reveals a high-level spell card and yells to crush him. With that, he summons the Holy Crusade, an army of knights in armor. The hero of the Zheng family observes his opponent's attack with a look of disdain. With his hands in his pockets, he says that it's very boring and that it doesn't impress him. With a smile, he says he'll get a little serious and reveals a divine-level card. He then summons the Berserker Dragon, a fire creature with a flaming sword. The creature advances with its fire sword and prepares to attack the knights. The powerful blow hits the opponent squarely, who is thrown backward by the impact. With wide eyes, the man is surprised to see that the attack was vulnerable. Zarin then says he is not worthy of seeing his true trump card and looks down on him.